In this video, I want to just give an overview about reports and the different icons we have here in this reports group. I want to also turn your attention to this TBL customers that I have clicked on and selected here in the navigation pane. And the reason why I want you to be aware that I've clicked on that is that in some cases when I click on these icons, it will use this table as its record source. Alright, so moving on. If I click on report, it just automatically generates a report based on the table or the query that I've got clicked on. And it just generates a report. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to not save it because I don't really want it. I'm going to go back to create here, and then I'm going to click on report design. And in report design, it doesn't matter what you have clicked here. It just goes into a basic report, the design of a report, and it's the beginnings for someone who wants to start from scratch. So you can place any kinds of labels, headers, any kinds of text boxes in here, any kinds of controls that you want. You're basically starting with a clean slate. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to go back to show you about the blank report. And this is an interesting button when you click on it because it just takes you into a blank report just like the other one did with report design, only this time it's in layout view, not in design view. It's just another representation of pretty much something that's starting from a blank slate. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this because I'm not really interested in saving that either. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on create. And now I'm going to go to report wizard, which will give me a more in-depth options. And so one of the things that I did want you to notice is that I was clicked on TBL customers over here, and so it automatically is using that as a record source for this report. And just to remind you about what a record source is, it's the table or query that the report would be based on. That's the data that would be pulled in and placed on the report. Anyway, so this is the data source that this report wizard is using. And so, of course, these are the fields that are in this table. And so I might choose, for example, to put the first name and the last name and perhaps the phone number on this report. And I can go to the next screen, and it says, do you want any grouping levels? Grouping is a little bit more of a complicated concept, and I'm going to devote an entire video to that concept. But to give you an introduction to the idea of grouping, it has to do with looking at records, and then those records that have repeating information on them, to group them together and then place them in lists. And so what I mean by that is, let's go to this particular example here. I've got records here where I've got instructors and then I've got students. And so there's more than one student for each instructor. And so if you were to group those instructors, so you have a group for the instructor, and then a list of all of the different names for that instructor. And then here's another instructor, and you group all of those students together. So that's kind of the concept behind grouping. I will again go over that more in detail in a future video. So this right here, in this case, does not have any repeating information in it. All it is just records that have a first name, last name, and phone number. And there is no repeating information that could be grouped together. So because I am not going to do any grouping, I'm just going to click on Next. All right, here it asks, what sort order do you want for your records? Well, I might like to have them sorted in alphabetical order by last name, and then I might like to have them by first name. And yes, I do want them in ascending order. Ascending order would be A to Z. Descending order would be Z to A. But in this case, we want it ascending for both. So now I'll go to Next. And here it's asking me how I want my report to look. And most reports would be straight across in a line. Just kind of like a data sheet is how each record goes straight across in a line. Most reports, you want to have them go straight across. And so I will take the default for that. And then for this instance, I will pick portrait and not landscape. If I had a lot of fields, I might choose landscape. But for this situation, I only have 3 fields, so I'm just going to leave it at portrait and click on Next. And now it says, what title do you want for your report? And I'm going to say, instead of TBL customers, I'm going to delete the TBL, and I'm going to say customers. And now it says, that's all the information the wizard needs to create your report. Do you want to preview the report or modify the report's design? And I'm going to choose preview the report and click on finish. And so now the wizard is creating that particular report. And here you can see the report that has been generated based on the parameters that I gave in the report wizard. I'm going to go ahead and close this print preview, and it takes me to the design view of the report. And I'm going to go ahead and close this, and then I want to go ahead and just finish the video by going and clicking on create and then coming over here to labels. And I'm going to show you about creating labels. Now what they mean by labels are labels that you would print out and then take them off of the paper and then stick them on something like, for example, folder labels or mailing labels. So that's the kind of label that they mean. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just use the default of what they've got set here. The number for the Avery box, that's company that labels or names all of their different labels, gives them names based on numbers. And so one of the numbers that they've assigned to a set of labels is 5160, and that's a common one that does go on folder labels. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on Next, and just to demonstrate to you what it looks like, and it says what font and color do you want, and I'm just going to use the default. Now here what they're asking is, what do I want to go on my mailing label? And this particular mailing label only has space for 2 lines of information. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put on here the last name, and then I'll say comma and a space, and then I'll say first name, and then on the next line I'm just gonna put their phone number for grins. And so then now I will say next, and which fields do you want to sort by? I'll sort by last name, then by first name. I'll go next, and I will say, instead of labels customers, I will say customer labels here, or maybe I'll say folder labels. Yeah, I think that would be even better. And then I'll say finish, and it will generate the labels. Now in this case it's come up with this error that says there is not enough horizontal space on the page for the number of columns and column spacing you specified. In general, I just ignore this error. Usually it works out just fine. I'll say okay. And then here you can see the labels have been generated. And I can go ahead and put labels in the printer and print these out if I wanted to. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close print preview, and that takes me back to the design of the labels themselves. So the label wizard generated the design for you. No problem, huh? This is a good way to do it. Makes it easy. And so to go back and just review, I clicked on create, and I did these clicked on these different icons to show you the different ways that you can generate reports. In follow-up videos, I will talk about some other concepts relating to reports, such as how to make them in PDF format or to put them into a Word document. So stay tuned. Thanks.